Alright, I'm going to give a tutorial on the Texas Instruments BA2 Plus calculator. This is the one that I would recommend purchasing for the corporate finance class, and you can either purchase it at Walmart or office supply stores for around $30 or $35. First we'll turn on the calculator. The on-off button is up here in the top right corner. And basically what we're going to do in here is first show you how to set up the calculator to display the number of decimals that you need and to change the number of periods, and then we're going to work on time value of money buttons. So first, typically when the calculator comes set from the factory, it only shows 2 decimals, but since we'll be working a lot with percentages, we need to show at least 4 decimals. So to change the number of decimals that are displayed, we hit second and then the format button, which is the decimal point at the bottom, and you see it'll say DEC equals. Enter 4 and then hit the enter button on the very top row, and then you will have 4 decimals displayed. Also preset from the factory, it's set to 12 periods per year, so doing monthly payments. But let's change that to 1 period per year, and we'll just adjust the number of periods and the interest rate instead. So to do so, you hit second, and then the IY button, the number of periods per year, you hit 1, and then enter. And then that will set your periods per year to 1. Now, the 5 main time value of money buttons that we're going to be using are here in gray. N is number of periods, IY is interest rate per year, PV is present value, PMT is payment, and FV is future value. So say for example we wanted to see how much a $100 deposit would grow in 2 years at 5% interest. Okay. One thing to note on your calculator, whenever you enter something in these 5 buttons, it will stay there until you clear it out or override it. So let's just begin with, and it doesn't matter which buttons you put in first, but we'll go from left to right. We'll say it's 2 years, so you hit 2 N, and it'll display N equals 2. 5% interest. Here on the calculator you put interest rates in as whole numbers, not decimals. So hit 5 IY, and then we said we're going to put a $100 deposit, so that $100 is our present value, so $100 PV. Now if we were making annual payments or additions to the account, we would have a payment button, but since we don't, we can leave that blank. But again, since the numbers that we put in the calculator are stored until we change it, I would recommend always putting something in the 4 buttons and then solve for the 5th. So we hit 0 payment, and then to calculate the future value we hit CPT, so compute, up here in the left hand corner, future value, and you should get a value of $110.25. Now note that that's negative. This calculator regards cash flows as inflows and outflows. Since we put in $100 positive in its present value, you would take it out as future value. So you can just ignore the negative for the future value. When we get to later calculations, I would recommend always putting the present value in as negative, especially when we're doing bond calculations, but we'll work on those later. Alright, so to clear that, you can also clear all the buttons that you've entered by hitting second and the future value button. You see above that it says CLRTVM, so clear time value of money, and that erases everything that we've put in so far. But again, if you just make sure to put in a number on all 4 of the buttons that you have, other than what you're solving for, you shouldn't have a problem there. Alright, now say if we're doing how many years it takes to get $100 to grow to $500 at, say, 10% interest. Alright, so we're going to be solving for N. Now note, if you put in both a present and future value and put them both in as positive, you will get an error. So we need to make one of them negative. So again, our interest rate is 10, so we hit 10 IY. And we're going to say 100 is what we're going to start with, and then hit this plus minus button down here at the bottom to make that negative, and then present value. Again, we don't have any payment, so we hit 0 payment. We want to have $500 in the future sometime, so we'll hit future value, and then we hit compute in to see that it's going to take 16.886 years at 10% for $100 to reach $500. Now this is also if you wanted to know, all right, how long, let's go the other way, if we wanted to see, we want to leave our money in 5 years and what kind of interest it would take for $100 to grow into $500. Now again, our $100 we've already entered in the present value, 500 in the future value, so we can just leave those. We don't have to enter them again. But let's say, all right, we've got, I'll change that to 10 years to be a little more realistic. So you hit 10 in the number of periods, and then compute the interest rate. To see that account would have to earn 17.46% annual interest for $100 to grow to $500 in 10 years. Okay, but again, whenever you're putting in 2 of these 3 buttons, present value, payment, or future value, you have to make one of them negative, and I would recommend always making present value negative. Now your textbook also talks about ordinary annuities versus annuities due. Ordinary annuities is where the cash flow occurs at the end of the period. Annuity due is where the cash flow occurs at the beginning of the period. So we need to adjust the calculator to to recognize that. So say if we're going to put $100 in a year for 5 years in an account that earns 8% interest, and we'll calculate the future value of that. All right, so we'll hit 5 in, and then 8 was our interest rate, so 8 IY. Now we don't have a present value, so we're going to hit 0 present value. Okay, and we're going to put $100 in a year, so 100 is our payment. And then we want to know how much that will be at the end of the periods. So we hit compute future value, and you can see it'll grow to $586.66. All right. Now that was an ordinary annuity because we didn't change anything in our calculator. Our calculator is set to where the payments occur at the end of the periods. Okay, that's our default. If we want to change that to make that annuity due, we hit second payment, so second in the payment button, all right, and you see it displays end. Then we hit second enter or set, and you'll see the calculator change to BGN or begin. And also at the very top it will display BGN. So you need the calculator set to BGN to calculate annuities due, where cash flows occur at the beginning of the period. Now all our numbers are still in there, so we can hit compute future value, and you see with an annuity due it grows to 633. So annuities due, future value of annuities due are always going to be higher than the future value of an ordinary annuity, as we can see in this example. Now, normally most calculations we'll do will have end of the year cash flows. So we need to change that back. To change it back, again we hit second payment, second enter, and it changes it back to end.